You worked with Amazon for 5 years doing Thursday Night Football with Hannah Storm. How important was that, being the making history as the first all women NFL broadcast team?
It was hugely important, um, to Hannah and me together, to me individually. Um, was not on my bingo card. Okay. I was sitting right here in my office. Phone rings. My agent says, "Would you be interested in calling games?" And I paused. And the first thing I said is, "I can't do that." And he says to me, he said, "Listen, this is all very premature. Uh, the offer may not come. We may not be able to work it out. We may not be able to get it in your schedule. There's a lot of variables." He goes, "But I will not accept that you cannot do it." He goes, "Just take the meeting." So Hannah and I are texting back and forth. And we take the meeting with the Amazon executive. And the first thing he says to us is, "This is not a gimmick." And Hannah and I are texting, "Oh, okay, that's off to a good start," that type of thing. And we listened to what he had to say, and he was so passionate about it. I found out later, much later, much, much, much later, that the proposal that the Amazon executive wrote that he had to pitch to the higher ups at Prime Video, it was written for Hannah Storm and Andrea Kremer. It wasn't written for two women. It was written for us. And if we didn't take it, or if we didn't get it, then there was no plan B. So, and I've commended them because, as I indicated to you before, we're an option, because
Yeah.
that's what streaming is about. We may not be your cup of tea, but you cannot besmirch our credentials. Hannah is maybe the greatest host, male or female, of our generation. It's just that simple. And I think that what she did in terms of using her ability to be nimble, the ability to pivot to anything, that served her well. Because, Brandon, I have talked to other people in our business, and when I tell them how we had to call the games, they just are flummoxed. They can't believe with the constraints that we had. We didn't know any better, so we did it. She was amazing. We'd get things thrown, and she would just be so seamless. She's amazing. Just like, I always like to say I should be in the Guinness Book of World Records for working with the husband and wife, because Dan Hicks, her husband, was my play-by-play guy for 3 Olympics. So, I got to work with husband and wife. And anyway, and then for me, being an analyst, the first full-time female NFL game analyst, man, I was scared shitless. Am I allowed to say that? Well, I just said
Yeah.
it. The 2 days before the broadcast, I'm in my hotel room and my phone rings, and I look down and I go, "Hello, coach." And it's John Madden. And he says to me, "Why didn't I know about this? Why didn't you call me? Da 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 da. This is amazing. I'm so proud of you. How are you feeling?" And I go, "Coach," as I just said, "I'm scared shitless." And John Madden says to me, "Don't feel like you have to cram for the test. You've been preparing for this your entire career." And Brandon, I just, oh my God, to have John Madden say that to me. So my anxiety level, it went from like 99 down to like 49. It was still high, but at least it was on the trajectory going down. And both he and Al Michaels independently said the same thing to me. They said 90% of the announcers don't know what they're talking about. 99% of the audience doesn't know what they're talking about, but everybody thinks it's really cool. And I made a commitment. If I can't explain something in 5 or 6 seconds, because hey, honey, I can talk the language of football as good as anybody. But if I can't explain it in a short amount of time, then I shouldn't be saying it. So
Yeah.
I don't need to talk about ghost motion or you know um, jet sweeps or cover zero or fire zone or this, if I can't explain what it is. And just because I think that that's an important part of analyzing what you're doing. Do you have to say the A gap when you can just say, hey, that space between the guard and the center? It just helps people more. And so I was trying to formulate my own style in this. But it was hard, man. We'd go into commercial and they'd be showing replays. And so I have some idea of what's coming and what I can say. And then we'd come out of commercial and they'd either go to a totally different replay or whatever. You just had no idea what was coming. I learned it's just like in journalism where you say, like for all these insiders, you say, don't worry about being first, worry about being right. That's what I learned in the analysis. Don't worry about jumping in and being first. Make sure you see what they're putting out there, because it may not be what you're expecting. One really proud moment I had, our first season, the Bucks were playing at Chicago. It was the end of the game. You'll probably remember this. Tom Brady thought it was third down, but it was fourth down.
Yeah.
And I saw it immediately. And I called it out immediately. And I have to admit, I'm sorry, not that there's a tote board or anything anywhere, but my coordinating producer is sitting in another room and he's got our broadcast on and he's got the Fox broadcast on. And he's like, oh man, you beat the Fox broadcast. You really. And it was just sort of, it was just little things like that. We had what I called, Brandon, our small but mighty team. We did our best. I cast no aspersions that we were going to, I never thought that we would be the main broadcast team. I never thought that. I always hoped that we would get a chance to call a game with our own feed. So it was very disappointing that that wasn't the case. But I know that both Hannah and me, we made it abundantly clear, and it was then reciprocated back that we gave Amazon 4 years of really credible content that they could go to the NFL and get an 11-year, $11 billion deal for that. And when we won the Emmy for alternate broadcast 2 years ago, the first thing that Marie Donahue, the then Amazon executive, said was, thanks to Hannah and Andrea, because they started us off. So I was proud of that. Again, similar to Real Sports. By the way, why do I keep winning Emmys and then they cancel the show? Why does that happen, Brandon? But it just, again, you can live a life of bitterness and regret, or you could say, I'm really proud that we did this. I'm really proud that we had these opportunities, and hopefully they open doors for other people down the road. But I'm really proud that we were the first and that I was the first.